Hello, it's been a while since you've seen this face. I'm terribly sorry, I did take a break. But if you're new here, hi, welcome, I'm Ellen. I like to make videos about books and movies and just random stuff, I guess. But I wanted to come back because this is probably like my favorite video to do every year. And I know that this video is already super late in the year and probably not relevant anymore, but I still wanted to do it. I wanted to do this video earlier, but me trying to come back, it was like everything went wrong technically. Like my camera wasn't working, my light wasn't working. I'm still trying to figure out my new editing software that I have. So this video is late because of all those reasons. And I am very, very sorry, but I hope you're still watching it and you still are interested in this. But this is a video where I will tell you every single book that I read in the year of 2020, every single movie that I watched in 2020, as well as a bunch of statistics to go with those. I do that just basically for me because I am a Capricorn. I love statistics, but I just also find it interesting to look at the stats of my reading and my watching. I don't know, but let's just get started. Let's get into it. Okay, so how this video is gonna go is I'm gonna start with just saying every single book that I read in the year of 2020, and then we'll go into the statistics of the books. And then after that, I will go on to telling you every single movie that I watched in 2020, and then the statistics on the movies. That is the order. And I will put timestamps down below, so if you want to skip certain things, you can just click on the timestamp of where you want to go. So something also to keep in mind is that some of my star ratings have changed throughout the year. I don't know what it is, but sometimes like I'll look at a book or a movie and I'll feel a certain way about it when I first read it or watch it, and then give me a couple months to like think about it, or maybe I've somehow watched it again or read it again and my thoughts changed. Whether it's good or bad, don't know, but I will tell you what my original rating was and then what I changed it to if I happened to have changed my rating. I also have my handy dandy bullet journal here so I don't forget any of these informations. Is that a correct sentence? Anyway, so my goal for reading of 2020 was to read 82 books. I did not think I was going to make it because I got into a huge reading slump for like 3 months. But then somehow in December, I got really into poetry, thank God. So I read a lot of poetry and I just was like a reading machine in December, and I ended up meeting my goal and I read 83 books, so whew. So the first book that I read was Smart Girls Get What They Want by Sarah Strohmeyer. I gave that 4 stars. And then I read The Tempest by William Shakespeare, which I gave 3.5 stars. And then I read A Warning by Anonymous, which I gave 5 stars. And then I read Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare, which I gave 5 stars. And then I read One of Us Is Next by Karen M. McManus, which I gave 4.5 stars. This Will Only Hurt a Little by Busy Phillips, which I gave 4 stars. The Geography of You and Me by Jennifer E. Smith, I gave 3 stars. The Gospel According to Harry Potter by Connie Neal, I gave 2 stars. Measure for Measure by William Shakespeare, I gave 4.5 stars. Tweet Cute by Emma Lord, I originally gave 4 stars, but I have changed my rating to 3 stars. Calling All Witches, I can't remember the author of this, but I didn't give it a rating. Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, I originally gave 3.5 stars and I have changed it to just a flat 3 stars. Stargirl by Jerry Spinelli, I gave 5 stars. Surprise, surprise. This is a reread for me, so it was like one of my childhood favorite books. Hamlet by William Shakespeare, I gave 4.5 stars. Romeo and or Juliet by Ryan North, as well as To Be or Not to Be by Ryan North, and I didn't rate both of these. After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid, I gave 4 stars. Break Your Glass Slippers by Amanda Lovelace, I gave 5 stars. Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, I originally gave it 3 stars, but I've changed it to 2.5 stars. And I read Contagion by Erin Bowman, which I gave 5 stars. And then Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare, I gave 4.5 stars. The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu, I gave 1 star. McTrump by Ian Doescher and Jacopo della Quisera, I think that was the name, I gave 4 stars. The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill, I gave 5 stars. Immunity by Erin Bowman, I gave 4 stars. Love Stargirl by Jerry Spinelli, I gave 3 stars. The Municipalist by Seth Freed, I gave 2 stars. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, I gave 3 stars. Aru Shah and the Tree of Witches by Roshan Chokshi, I gave 4 stars. To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo, I gave 4 stars originally, but I have changed it to 3.5 stars. Okay, then I read Two Gentlemen of Verona by William Shakespeare, which I gave 1 star. I hate that play so much. The Hidden Power of Fucking Up by the Try Guys, I gave 4.5 stars. The Guest List by Lucy Foley, I originally gave it 4 stars, but I've changed my rating to 3 stars. The Marvels by Brian Selznick, I gave 5 stars. Dear Martin by Nick Stone, I gave 4.5 stars. And then The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, I originally gave 4 stars, but I've changed my rating to 3.5. And then the Sonnets by William Shakespeare, I originally gave it 4.5 stars, but I changed it to 5 stars. I really loved this a lot. Between the World and Me by Tanahashi Coates, I originally gave 3 stars, but I've changed it to 2 stars. I'm sorry, I just could not get with the writing of it. My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, I gave 2.5 stars. The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta, I originally gave 4.5 stars, but I have changed it to 5 stars. Color Outside the Lines, this is by multiple authors, and I think it's edited by Sangu Mandana. I think that's what it was. Or I think that's who it was. But I gave this 3 stars. Don't Call Us Dead by Danez Smith, I gave 3 stars. Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, I gave 5 stars. The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, I originally gave it 4 stars, but I have changed it to 3 stars. White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, I gave 4.5 stars. Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys, I gave 4.5 stars. The Interesting Narrative of the Life of Olaida Equiano, I gave 5 stars. To Hell with the Hustle by Jefferson Bethke, I originally gave 1.5 stars, but I changed it to just 1 star. The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare, I gave that 4 stars. All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson, I gave 4 stars. The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, I gave 4 stars. Then I read Would Like to Meet by Rachel Winters, which I gave originally 4 stars, and I've changed it to 3.5. This book is anti-racist, which I gave 5 stars. In the Role of Brie Hutchins by Nicole Melleby, I gave 4 stars. Nasty Women, which again is multiple authors, but it's edited by Samhita Mukhopadhyay and Kate Harding, and I gave that 5 stars. It was fantastic. Then I read 100 Love Sonnets by Pablo Neruda, which I gave 2 stars. Bloodlust and Bonnets by Emily McGovern, which, where are you? I originally gave 4 stars, but I've changed my rating to 3.5. Then I read Crier's War by Nina Varela, which I originally gave 3.5 stars, and I've changed it to 4 stars. Coriolanus, written by William Shakespeare, I gave 3 stars. You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson, I originally gave 4 stars, but I have changed my rating to 3.5. Swimming Lessons by Lily Reinhart, I originally gave it 3.5 stars, and I've changed it to 3. Fangs by Sarah Anderson, I was really hoping to love it, but I really hated it, and I gave it 1 star. Well Played by Jen DeLuca, another one I really wanted to love, but I only gave it 2 stars. So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Aluo, which I gave 4.5 stars. The Roommate by Rosie Danon, I gave 5 stars. Anxious for Nothing by Max Lucado, I gave 1 star. Homebody by Ruby Kaur, I gave 5 stars. Disfigured by Amanda Leduc, I gave 4.5 stars. I Would Leave Me If I Could by Halsey, I gave 3 stars. The Best We Could Do by T. Bowie, which I gave 3 stars. Egyptian Legends and Stories by M.V. something. Can't quite remember it, but I didn't write it. Then I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, which I gave 3 stars. No one come for me for that one. I'm sorry. I know everyone loved this book, but I just felt okay about it. Then I read All Along You Were Blooming by Morgan Harper Nichols, which I gave 5 stars. Soft Thorns by Bridget DeVoe, I gave 3 stars. The 12 Dates of Christmas by Jenny Bayliss, I gave 3 stars. In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, I gave 4 stars. I Find You in the Darkness by Alpha, I gave 3.5 stars. Dreams for Many Rivers by Margarita Engel, I gave 3 stars. Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer, I gave 2 stars. Milk and Vine by Emily Beck and Adam Gasawaski, I ended up not rating this one. Then I have Poems for the End of the World by Katie Weismer. That's who it was. I gave it 4.5 stars. Really enjoyed it. Sweet Dark by Savannah Brown, I gave 1 star. And then lastly, but not least, a great fitting to end the year with, but I read Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, a book about death by Caitlin Doughty, and I gave it 4.5 stars. So those are all the books. Let's go through some stats. So first let's look at every single month of my reading and what it looked like. So this is January. This is February, this is March, this is April, this is May, this is June, this is July, this is August, this is September, this is October, this is November, and this is December. So definitely my best month quantity-wise would be December. I think I read like 14 books in December. I read a total of 3,850 pages, which averages to about 124 pages a day. So that's my best month quantity-wise, but quality-wise, my best month was January. I think my average star rating was like 4.4, which is fantastic. I gave mostly 5 stars in January. And then I read 36 hardcover books and 47 paperbacks. I do prefer paperbacks over hardbacks, so I'm not surprised by that number, but I am surprised that it's so close as it is. I thought it was definitely going to be like a good 60 or 70% paperback, but that's fine. And then I added a statistic halfway through the year, just because of all the things that were going on in the world. I was realizing my reading was not as diverse as I thought it was. So I tried to read more diversely, and it's definitely something I'm going to keep looking into in the future, and something I'm going to keep better track of in the future. So this might be a little bit off. I tried my best to try and compile it all at the end of the year, but it's not great and I'm embarrassed by it. But just know I'm working on it for 2021. But I read 63 white authors, and I read 24 BIPOC authors. Now those 24 are not just like black, they're all races except for white. So I'm not happy with that number. Okay, and then for years, I read 27 books that came out in 2020. So then 56 of the books I read were backlisted and from other years, which again, not surprising. I typically tend to pick up books that are more from years past than books that just came out. But I'm trying to work on that for this year because there are so many books coming out this year that I really want to read. So I'm trying to prioritize 2021 books. But then again, I also have so many books that are not 2021. Well, we'll see. We're working on things. Okay, so now for the gender of the authors, I read 27 male authors, 53 female authors, 2 that were both male and female, and then 1 unknown because it was anonymous, so I don't know if it's male or female. And that's not surprising to me at all, the whole more females than males, because I typically read more females, and also I feel like most authors these days are females, especially in the YA category, which is where I typically read. Which then brings us to the next stat, which is the age range, which I was very surprised with this year actually. So I actually read 55 adult books. So I read more adult books than I've ever read in a year. And I read 20 young adult and then 8 middle grade. Crazy. I honestly thought it was going to be more young adult, but no, I've read so many adult books this year. Let's see if we can keep that up. Okay, so next I want to talk about pages and the length of the books. So the shortest book that I read was 40 pages. However, this one I don't know if I typically count, or the other one, which I think was like 43, and that's just because the books themselves are not actually that length. It's just I counted how many pages I actually read because it is a choose your own adventure book. So I didn't read every single page that the book was given me. So I don't know if I want to count those or not. So instead I'm going to go with, just in case, I'm going to go with the actual book where I read every single page and it was really short. And those were two books, and that was Sweet Dark and Milk and Vine. They were 76 pages, both of those. And then the longest book I read was 699 pages. Not surprising, it was Lord of Shadows. The total, I read 23,086 pages. I can't remember how that compares to last year, because I do not remember how many pages I read last year. But basically that averages out to 63 pages a day, which is very good, and I approve of that. Alright, 2 more stats to go through. Let's go through genre next. So genre, I have 10 romances. I read 6 plays, 17 non-fiction, which is the most that I have read. That is the highest genre that I have on this list, which I'm very surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised because I don't normally read nonfiction. No, I do read nonfiction. I absolutely love reading nonfiction, but I typically tend to like not read as much as other genres, so it's very surprising to see nonfiction as my #1 genre. And then we've actually got my #2 genre after that, which is fantasy. I read 14 books in fantasy. Then I read 2 mystery. I read 10 contemporary. I read 4 humor. And then this next genre is super surprising as well. I read 12 poetry. I don't normally read poetry. I think maybe I read like 3 poetry a year. But like I said, December, I really got into poetry and I just read a ton of poetry. And now now I feel like I'm a poetry person, so I'm like actively seeking out poetry books to read. And then I read 3 sci-fi, 1 literary fiction, 2 historical fiction, which honestly always upsets me every year. I never read a lot of historical fiction, but it is one of my favorite genres. So like it doesn't make sense, it doesn't compute with my brain as to why I don't read that many, even though I love it. I don't know. Anyway, my last genre is horror, and I read 2 horrors. And then the last stat I want to share with you for books is my star ratings. So let's start with the 1 stars. I read 6 1 stars. I read 0 1.5 stars. So I read 6 2 stars. I read 2 2.5 stars. Yes. I read 17 3 stars. I read 7 3.5 stars. I read 12 4 stars, 12 4.5 stars, and 16 5 stars. Now, I'm surprised because of a couple reasons. Usually it's my 4 stars that have the most, but this time around it's my 3 stars that had the most. So that wasn't a good sign for me. But also I was surprised that my 5 stars had more than my 4 stars. So it just, I guess, evens out with like okay books and really great books. So my average was 3.6 stars. I honestly feel nothing towards that. Because I know it's so hard to even like make it to that 4-point average, or like just 4 point anything average. So as long as it's just above 3.5, I am fine with it. So 3.6, not bad. Okay, so let's move on to the movies that I watched. I had a goal of watching 110 movies, but I ended up only watching 96. But I will say that that is mostly because of the movie theater shutting down. So not a lot of movies were coming out. Let's go on to just listing every single movie that I watched. So get ready, there's 96. And again with this, sometimes my star ratings have changed. So I'll let you know what those changed too. So the first movie we have is Burn, and I gave this 2 stars. Then I watched 1917, which I gave 5 stars. Love in Winterland, I gave 3 stars. Oh, something also to keep in mind, all my Hallmark movies, because you are going to see a lot of like Hallmark Christmas movies. I rate those differently than I rate normal movies, just because I have so much love for the Hallmark movies. So take my ratings with those with a grain of salt. Just like keep that in mind, that literally my star rating is just purely on enjoyment factor. Nothing else. Okay, so let's continue. Next I have Underwater, which I originally gave 3 stars, but I have changed it to 4 stars just because I keep watching it and I keep wanting to watch it. I really like it more and more that I watch it. Doolittle, which I gave 3 stars. The Gentleman, I gave 3.5 stars. Free Solo, I originally gave 4 stars, but I changed it to 2 stars. Big change, and that's mainly because the more I think about it, the more bored with it I am. Then I watched The Rhythm Section, which I gave 3 stars, and then P.S. I Still Love You, I originally gave 4.5 stars, but I have changed it to 4 stars. Birds of Prey, which I originally gave 4 stars, but I have changed it to 5 stars because I just love it so much. Then I watched Downhill, which I gave 2 stars. Zombies 2, which I gave 3 stars. Sonic the Hedgehog, I gave 2.5 stars, and that's mainly just because Jim Carrey was the only good part about the movie. Emma, I gave 3 stars. Fire Fraud, I originally gave 3 stars, and to this day, I still don't know why I gave it 3 stars because I changed it to 1 star. I really did, and I think the reason why I did not like this movie is just because I was so not interested in the subject matter. I was not interested in this topic of rich white people getting ripped off. I was not into it. All the Bright Places, I gave 4 stars. Onward, I gave 4 stars. Stargirl, I gave 3 stars. I Still Believe, which I gave 4 stars. Viking Warrior Women, I gave 4 stars. Cinderella, I gave 4 stars. Penguins, I gave 4 stars. Harry Potter, A History of Magic, I originally gave 2.5 stars, but I changed my rating to 1.5 because why did I give a 2.5 star rating to a movie that I fell asleep watching? Next, I watched Blended, which I gave 2 stars. Rogue One, which I originally gave 4.5 stars, but I've changed it to 4 stars. Then I watched Clue, the movie, which I originally gave 4 stars, but I've changed it to 5 stars because I really love this movie a lot. Jonas Brothers, Happiness Continues. I originally gave 4 stars, but I changed it to 3 stars just because it's a little bit forgettable and I can't quite remember it. The Lovebirds, which I gave 3.5 stars. Artemis Fowl, which I originally gave 1.5 stars, but then upon thinking about it, I was like, no, it's a 1-star movie. It's really bad. Feel the Beat, I gave 2 stars. Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga, I gave 4.5 stars. I love Eurovision. And this is definitely a movie for Eurovision fans. I had so much fun watching this. I watched this movie so many times and now I just want to watch it again thinking about it. Then I watched Becoming, which I gave 3 stars. My Spy, I gave 3 stars. 13th, I gave 5 stars. Hamilton, which, okay, I wasn't originally going to consider this a movie because it's just a musical that happened to be filmed, but I'm considering it a movie because I needed my number of movies that I watched to go up, and also there were not a lot of 5 stars, so I needed something that was a 5 star to put in the movie section, so we're putting it in the movie section. Also, I really did enjoy the way that it was filmed and the way it was shot. I thought they did a good job with that. Then I watched Desperados, which I gave 3 stars. Apollo 11, I gave 1 star. I know a lot of people gave this like 5 stars, and I just don't see why. It is so boring. Oh my god. Ashes in the Snow, I gave 3.5 stars. Palm Springs, I gave 4 stars. Hugo, I gave 4 stars. And The Kissing Booth 2, I gave 4 stars. Again, a lot of people didn't like this one, but I really liked this one, so I gave it a high rating. Don't hate me. Then I watched High Strung Free Dance, which I originally gave 1 star, but I'm changing it to 1.5 star just because of that ending. I really liked that ending. Then I watched Work It, which I gave 2.5 stars. The Lost Husband, I gave 3.5 stars. Someone Great, I gave 4 stars. Love, Wedding, Repeat, I gave 2 stars. The Sleepover, I originally gave 3.5 stars, but I changed it to 3 stars. Drunk Parents, I gave 1 star. The One and Only Ivan, I gave 3.5 stars. Chemical Hearts, I gave 4 stars. The Binge, I gave 3 stars. Love Guaranteed, I gave 3 stars. The Babysitter Killer Queen, I originally gave it 3.5 stars, but I changed it to 4 stars because I just really had a fun time watching it. Bones of Contention, I gave 1 star. I don't even know why I watched it in the first place. Altogether now, I gave 3 stars. Secret Society of Second-Born Royals, I gave 1 star. Enola Holmes, I gave 4 stars. Hubie Halloween, I gave 2 stars. Beetlejuice, I gave 2.5 stars. A Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting, I originally gave this 3.5 stars, but I've changed my rating to 3 stars. Rebecca, I gave 4 stars. And then I watched Clouds, which I gave 4 stars. Holiday, I originally gave 4 stars, but I've changed my rating to 3.5. Over the Moon, I gave 3.5 stars. The Witches, I gave 2.5 stars. Best Wishes, Warmest Regards, A Schitt's Creek Farewell, I gave 4 stars. One Royal Holiday, I gave 5 stars. You're now going to start seeing a lot of Hallmark Christmas movies, get ready. Operation Christmas Drop, I gave 3 stars. Christmas with the Darlings, I gave 1 star. On the 12th Date of Christmas, I gave 3.5 stars. Christmas in Vienna is 3 stars. Jingle Bell Bride, I gave 4 stars. Princess Switch, Switched Again, 2 stars. Chateau Christmas, 2 stars. Alien Xmas, I originally gave it 1.5 stars, but I changed it to 1 star. Happiest Season, I gave 4 stars. The Christmas Chronicles 2, 2.5 stars. A Christmas Tree Grows in Colorado, I gave 4 stars. Christmas by Starlight, I gave 3 stars. The Christmas House, 3 stars. Jingle Jangle, A Christmas Journey, 4 stars. A Midnight at the Magnolia, I originally gave 2.5 stars, but I changed it to 2 stars. I Am Greta, I gave 4.5 stars. If I Only Had Christmas, I gave 2 stars. Godmothered, I gave 3 stars. 5-Star Christmas was 4 stars. Christmas She Wrote, 2 stars. Gaga 5'2", I gave 4 stars. High School Musical, the musical, the series, the holiday special, I gave 1 star. Really didn't like it. The Prom, I gave 3 stars. It was okay. Soul, I gave 5 stars. This was fantastic. Please watch it. The Broken Hearts Gallery, I gave 3.5 stars. Tenet, I gave 3 stars, but I will say this is one of those movies where if I keep watching it, if I like watch it again and again, the more I watch it, I think the more I'm going to like it. So I have a feeling that this will change to 4 stars when I watch this movie again, but just the first time watching it, it was quite confusing, so I had to give it 3 stars. Wonder Woman 1984, I gave 4 stars. I know a lot of people didn't like this movie, but I really liked it. I mean, the ending wasn't too great, but overall, had a blast. Ariana Grande, Excuse Me, I Love You. I actually didn't rate this. Now that I think about it, I probably should rate it. But I felt like it was more just her concert with a few little clips of behind the scenes. I don't know. I guess I'll give it 4 stars. But I didn't put that within my statistics, so just forget about that one. And then last but not least, a great movie to end 2020 with. I watched Death to 2020, which I gave 4 stars. I highly recommend watching this. It was really funny. It was a mockumentary about the year 2020. So first let me go through the months and what I watched in every single month. So this is what I watched in January, in February, in March, in April, in May, in June, in July, in August, in September, in October, in November, and in December. So my best month quantity-wise was definitely November. I cannot remember the exact number that I watched. We're in a movie watching mode, Ellen. Okay, yeah, I read, oh my god, I keep doing this. I watched 19 movies in November. That is all thanks to the Hallmark Christmas movies. Most of them come out in November, so I was just really in that mood. But my best month star rating wise was March. My average star rating for that month was 3.8. So it's upsetting that a 3.8 was like my highest average rating for a month, but I did give like multiple movies 4 stars. I think I gave every movie that month 4 stars except for one. So now the next thing, the next set I'm gonna give probably doesn't really matter too much for this year, but it's something I definitely want to keep track of once movie theaters open again. But it's the format of the movie, the way that I watched the movie. So I watched 12 movies in theaters, and that's again because the theaters shut down. I watched 8 physical movies, so these are movies that I already physically owned. I watched 62 digital movies, which is no surprise there. And then I watched 14 TV movies. Obviously that means movies that were aired on TV. And I watched them on the TV. And then I did this as for books, but I'm doing this as well for movies. Obviously I did all these stats for books as well. But this is one of the stats that I didn't keep track of until halfway through the year when, you know, things were happening in the world and I was realizing that I do not diversify my reading. I do not diversify my movie watching, I guess. So I started keeping track of it halfway through the year. So this end of the year, it's kind of like trying to piece it all together with everything that I watch. So take this with a grain of salt because I don't think all of this is correct, but it's still something that's important to keep track of and something that's important that I want to keep track of myself, to make sure I am diversifying my movie watching. But I am embarrassed by the number. So I watched 90 movies that were directed by white people. And then 7 movies that were directed by BIPOC. And now I know I watched 96 and you're like, Ellen, 90 plus 7 is 97. There was one movie that is Soul that was directed by both a white and a black man. But still, 90 to 7. I'm not happy with that. I also think that's wrong. I think I messed up some of the count a little bit, but still, it would have been mostly white. Now, I'm not sure if that's like an on me thing. I think it's probably both. It's an on me thing, but I think it's also like within the industry, there are not as many BIPOC directors, just like there aren't that many female directors. So I think that's something that needs to change within the industry, but I also need to work on that and actually try and actively seek out those types of things. But let's go on to the next stat, which is the year. So I watched 74 movies that came out in 2020, and then I watched 22 movies that did not come out in 2020. Okay, next stat, we're gonna go with length. So the shortest movie that I watched was 42 minutes. It was also one I didn't particularly like. And then the longest movie that I watched was 160 minutes, which I loved. And also it's like, do I consider this a movie? Not particularly, but again, I'm considering it a movie just for the stats reasons because I need as many stats as I can get. But total, I watched 9,420 minutes of movies, which averages out to 25.8 minutes a day. I'm actually not happy with that. I thought it was gonna be a lot more. I thought it was gonna be around like 12,000, which is where I want it to be at. So that's gonna need to change for next year. Hopefully the movie theaters will open so that it can change. That is where I want it. Okay, so let's talk about gender. So I watched 72 movies that were directed by males. Again, we talked about this, not surprised. It's a very male-dominated industry. And then I watched 22 female-directed movies, which I will say I've been trying to work on more this year, or this past year in 2020, so that is more than what I watched the year before. But it's still something we need to work on. We want it to be more even. But anyway, I also watched 2 movies that were directed by both male and female. Now let's go talk about the ratings, which is kind of like the age range, so we get to see what age movies I watched. So I only watched 2 G-rated movies, 21 PG movies, 17 PG-13 movies. I watched 11 R-rated movies, 8 not rated movies, 10 movies that were rated TVMA, 4 movies rated TV-14, 3 movies rated TV PG, 19 movies that were rated TV G. And then I watched 1 movie that was rated TV Y, which I think means TV Young. So now let's move on to genre. So I watched 2 thrillers, 8 dramas, 29 romances. This is my most watched genre, and it is not a surprise. I love rom-coms. I watched 1 horror, 15 documentary. This is the only one that might have been a little bit surprising to me because I don't typically watch a lot of documentaries, but my goal for this year was to watch at least 1 documentary a month, which I did not keep up with technically, but some months I watched multiple. I watched 17 comedies. That's not surprising because I do also like comedies. I watched 2 sci-fi. I watched 1 mystery, 6 adventure, 9 action. I know a lot of times people put action and adventure together, but I tend to separate them because I can see the differences between an action movie and an adventure movie. So I like to keep them separate from each other. Then I watched 5 fantasy and 1 biography / musical. I didn't know what genre to put this as, so it said biography on IMDb, so that's what I went with, but we're also gonna go with musical. And then our last stat, and then we're done with this video, are the stars. Okay, so I gave 9 1 stars, 2 1.5 stars, 12 2 stars, 5 2.5 stars. I gave 22 3 stars, which again, so many 3 stars. I'm not used to seeing that many. 9 3.5 stars, 27 4 stars. That is the most that is on here, is the 27 4 stars, which is typical. I do typically give more 4 stars. 2 4.5 stars, which I was so shocked with, and then only 7 5 stars. So the average was 3.1 stars. Ugh, it's so not good. I like it to be 3.5 or higher. So yeah, so this was not a great year for movies for me, and it's very upsetting, and now I feel bad ending with stars because I feel like I have ended on a bad note. But we're looking to the future, and we are looking to 2021, hopefully bringing out some great movies, some really great books, and we're going to try and keep in mind all the things that I want to keep track of for 2021. And that is it for this video. Thank you for coming and watching it if you did. I know this video is late, so it's probably not that relevant anymore, and I will also be coming out with my top 10s for the year 2020. Those are also going to be incredibly late because those should have already been up by now. So I hope that you'll still watch them even though they're very late. But yeah, so thank you for watching this video. Again, I'm repeating myself now. I've forgotten how to do videos apparently. But yeah, I will see you guys later with more videos. Bye.